We are at Castello Sforzesco, which was the Sforza family castle. It is immense. I don't even know. It looks like 6 blocks sideways and to the back. And the reason for this matters for the novel is, of course, for Caterina Sforza. Caterina Sforza was the daughter of the Duke of Milan. She was the illegitimate daughter, but according to custom in those days, she was raised with her biological family, and she was adored. And in fact, she got a superior education in this very castle. This is the old Castello is back there, and they've turned it into museums now. But this is the beginning of it, and every family, every Sforza generation added to it and made it bigger and bigger and better and better. And I was just to imagine that if you come here and think that you could possibly be related to the Duke of Milan, and this could have been an ancestral home for some, generations back of your family, it's mind-blowing to see. You can't even conceive of how large this is. I mean, look, you see the ramparts, you see the battlements. They have tours for all of these separate places. But what I wanted you to see now is just the vastness and the splendor and the architecture, and understand that there are royal families, but was Milan's royal family. And nothing says that better than this castle. It's the largest castle I've ever seen, much less been in. And you can see people, just crowds hanging out, walking through, touring, everything like that. And now I'm going to take you in here. This is yet another courtyard in the Castello, which would have been the part where the family lived. As you go through these incredible arched gates. Stay with me because we're going right through here. Isn't this incredible? You can see the ramparts up there, everything like that, the windows. You go through this castle, you see the scary gate, and then you go out here, and this is where Caterina Sforza grew up, in this protected, sheltered, privileged place with tutors. And Gian Galeazzo, her father, had one of the famously they say his was one of the most involved courts in all of royalty. He had it was like having a small corporation. They all live at court with you. Tutors and nurses and cooks and doctors and astrologers, because she was very interested in astrology. She grew up very interested in astrology. All of the things. His was one of the most enlightened courts of the Renaissance. And I thought you should see, look at this wall. I mean, all for protection. She grew up here. This was Caterina Sforza's home. Oh, I love that music so much. It gets me so jazzed, because this is a psychological thriller, and it should sound thrilling, kind of. Well, let me tell you why all this matters. So the book is called The Unraveling of Julie, and here as you can see, dark Tuscany. And really, that's really what's the kind of what the note is. It's dark Tuscany. And I'll tell you why Caterina Sforza enters into the picture. Short headline of the plot. This is a modern day story. This is not historical fiction as much as I love it. That is not this. This is the story of a woman in Philadelphia. Oh, guess I'm a woman in Philadelphia. But anyway, she pronounces her O's funny, just like I do. And she basically, after the death of her husband, is grieving, and then one day inherits this massive estate in Tuscany, all this money, a villa, 40 acres, but she doesn't know who her benefactor is. Now, that is a very strange, and what's stranger about it, and what's the real meat of the plot, is that she's adopted. So she doesn't really know anything about her birth family, and her adoptive parents, who she loved very much, are dead. So she has to go to Tuscany, naturally, to figure out who left me this property, who left me this fortune, and the person, she starts to sleuth together who it could be, who it could possibly be. And I'm not giving anything away. I never would do that. The woman is a certain age, so it could be her birth grandmother, but she doesn't know. She's got to figure that out. What she finds, though, is that the villa she inherited, this kind of villa, is a dump. Like Fixer Upper doesn't begin to describe it. It's a spooky, haunted villa. It's got a really crazy vibe. She's scared. She's alone. And what she starts to learn about her grandmother, then I'll stop, I won't tell you more of the plot, is that if it is her grandmother, whoever this lady was who left her all this money, this woman was hated because she believed that she was a descendant of Caterina Sforza, who lived in that massive castle during the Renaissance and was Milanese royalty, if not one of the most important historical figures in Italy. So you hear, like, she had delusions of grandeur. And because this woman, who was her benefactor, thought that she was royalty, she acted like it. She was mean to everybody. She was a jerk. She was a huge snob. She was reclusive. She was paranoid. She thought ghosts were haunting her. She had visions. She had hallucinations. And before long, the main character in this book, a young widow, the troubled young widow who does this, she starts to experience a lot of those hallucinations herself. She starts to think that she is related to Caterina Sforza. So that's the top line of the plot. So I go to Tuscany and Milan to research it. And why that matters is this, and I want to take a minute to just give you a little backdrop about Caterina Sforza and why it mattered to me and why it matters in the novel. Caterina Sforza and the whole Sforza family, it's SF. That's why it sounds funny when we say it. It's S-F-O-R-Z-A. Everybody in Italy knows that family. But here, we don't really know much about them. We just know about Caterina something, maybe, and she's even in a video game, Assassin's Creed. But Caterina Sforza, you've heard the term Renaissance man. It's the idea of someone during the Renaissance, a man who knew a lot and did a lot and was famous for kind of advances. She is the unsung hero of the Renaissance. She is actually a Renaissance woman. If you want to know, she was actually the Renaissance woman, and I'll tell you why. You heard me say in the video, and I don't want to repeat myself, but that she, why stop now? But in any event, she grew up very wealthy, the adored child. But the fact is that for a woman during the Renaissance, you were basically chattel. So that when she was age 14, she was given in an arranged marriage to a guy who, get ready for this, did not even show up to the wedding. So you can say, well, she was loved and treasured. On the other hand, she was also traded to another noble family. And what she does with that, though, is that she decides to make herself. Partly because she loved books so much and grew up reading books about famous women. She basically learns to do everything that a lot of men do, ride horses. She reads a ton. She starts to read about generals. She starts telling her husband, who gets this kingdom in Forlì, which is right near Tuscany. She starts setting up the battle plans for it. She ends up being the brains behind the throne. He was very rough-hewn and kind of not very nice. He lacked all of her class. She was classier. And she also was more sentient, more empathic. This is a picture of her, by the way. She was very beautiful. This is Caterina Sforza. And this is called Daughters of Alchemy, because one of the things she learned, she taught herself how to make, she loved to garden. And rather than just grow flowers, which she loved flowers, she starts categorizing flowers. She writes books about how to categorize flowers. From the various flowers, she starts to make creams and salves. She becomes a naturopath. All the while, she's the power behind the throne. All the while, she has 6 children. The first 2 husbands die. She's a widow. So you can see in this book, my book, this woman who begins the novel as a widow and is heartbroken starts to identify with Caterina. She can't tell if she's descended from her or she's identifying with her. But the more I began to learn about Caterina Sforza, the more I started to think this woman deserves to be better known. Because even through all of the travail, now you could say, hey, look, she grew up in a castle that's basically the size of a city. But honestly, she's still a human being. And she has to meet somebody at 14. It's kind of gross, honestly. It kind of sucks all around. But what she does after the first husband dies, she basically finally remarries again. He is murdered too. Her first two husbands are murdered because of all this power that's warring between these warring families. And what she does after the second husband is murdered, which mainly a lot of, especially at that time, women would have said, "Well, I'm a widow. I guess I'm going to pack it in. I got to go." She decides to try to rule the kingdom. Now she can't as a woman in technically, but she has one of the male children, and she says, "Well, I'm ruling in his stead until he's of age." And she basically becomes she is the Duchess. She runs Forlì, which is this incredibly prosperous town. It prospers under her, it grows under her, it starts to be more of a merchant community, it gets banking. All under her. She is the one and only woman ruler, female ruler during the Renaissance. And I thought her life story, that even though it looks so great on the outside, and by the way, she eventually finds love with the Medici, and they really understood each other. You know what they had in common so much? They both loved books. She finds a book lover, and they live happily ever after until he dies, and so she's widowed again. And that's when she starts writing even more books. So given that even though she was born wealth, I don't like to judge from the outside, that never judge a book by its cover. She had all the wealth she could ever want, but to live as a woman at a time and have your freedom so circumscribed, she found a way to become who she was really meant to be. She found a way. She empowered herself at a time when women weren't empowered. And we'll talk more about her in other videos because I have other things to tell about her. But she took on Machiavelli. She went toe to toe with the whole Borgia family by herself. A single woman, widowed, on her own. They tried to take the throne from her. They couldn't succeed. And I said, why does this matter? This is not historical fiction. You're not writing the story of her life. But what I thought is it's interesting because this woman in the story who's contemporary begins to identify with her. And when we open the book, as I say, she's widowed, but also she's kind of lost her way, not only because of the death of her husband, but really she isn't sure about her career. She isn't sure what she wants to be. And not only does she begin to believe that she really is descended from Caterina Sforza, but she also draws inspiration from her. And that's what I love, because when you look at, not everybody is lucky to have like a great family or people who guide them or people who will help them or parents who really get them from the outset, And here she lives in a time when nobody helped her be who she wanted to be. And so she became it herself. And what really happens in the novel is a little bit, I think, what has happened in all of our lives to a certain extent. We look up to people, right? We go, oh, look what she did. Can I do that too? I find that from other women writers. I go, wow, look at all these great women writers. When I was a girl reading, you go, if I ever could write a book, could I ever do that? Could I ever be published? And then you start to see, well, look at the names. It's a lady's name. It's a woman. And you read the back, you go, what does she do? Where does she live? You look her up. Maybe now you have the web, but we become role models for each other. And we help each other empower ourselves. My mother, who graduated high school but didn't go to college, empowered me in so many ways. I love writing about her. I love talking about her. So many of you have met her, if not read about her. My daughter Francesca, who's amazing, and she even empowers me in so many ways. My girlfriends empower me. They're all role models for me. I have friends who I've watched go through illness. I go, wow, she did that. All of that time, because I feel that a woman's life, as I've often said, is about finding strength you didn't know you had. And you can get that strength from other people. You can get it from historical figures. You can get it from your mom. God knows where it comes from for you. But I know that it's out there. And I know it's helped me in my life. And so that's why, even though this book is, oh, look at my daughter said, you are my greatest inspiration, Mom. I love her so much. I just left New York and I had to leave her. I still cry when I go. She's so great, my kid. And so my kid, who's now an adult and a novelist in her own right. So well, we'll talk about her in a minute. But so that's what I just wanted to say. That's why Katerina Sforza matters. I think my girlfriends matter so much, my mother, my daughter, my besties. I hope we're all there for each other. I hope you know I'm there for you. I love that you are certainly Beth Bendit from high school, my friend. You guys have been here for me forever. Clara, you have empowered us. You're so sweet. I was in the Italian Day Parade. Clara was there. And I mean, you guys have been so supportive of me. I don't think there's any better example of women supporting each other than these Monday nights. So I'm super grateful for you. Now, I just wanted to take a second. And also, this quote was so nice because it was a wonderful review. And I wanted to reiterate it only because it sort of ties in with what I'm saying. I'll just read you the last line about the unraveling of Julia. The review is supernatural and gothic elements are like. So I don't want to go in full scary, but suspenseful here, enveloped in the warmth of Tuscan food. You know, I have the food always, and Tuscan beginnings. Scottolini's latest is evocative of the vintage Gothic tales of Phyllis Whitney and Victoria Holt, two wonderful women authors. We're talking about apropos other authors empower us. They did for me, and I'm really, really honored by that comparison in reviews. I love you guys very, very much. I will let you go now. It's a half an hour. I'd like to get you back to your life. But thank you again so very much for all of your support of my book and for Francesca's books. I really, really appreciate it. And stay well till next Monday night. Stay cool, my babies. Thank you again.